Everything has come to a halt, and it looks like all the movies that are coming out under Disney have been delayed, except Star Wars. I find that very interesting. But why not Star Wars? It's not the most interesting thing in the world. It's fairly obvious. But right now, with the way that things are going in the world, this little epidemic we have going on, we're delaying everything. Production on certain shows, like the Cassian Andor show that was supposed to come on Disney Plus, that has been delayed. Thank God The Mandalorian wrapped up production a few months before this whole thing happened. But Disney is having new dates for Mulan, Black Widow, Jungle Cruise, and many more films due to the global pandemic that's going on right now. Mulan's now coming out on July 24th of this year. Black Widow was supposed to come out earlier this year, and now it's coming out November 6th. And there's a lot of other films that are being pushed back from their original dates into like the year 2022. I think Thor, Love and Thunder or something like that is now coming out in 2022 in February of 2022 instead of 2021. So you have a lot of films that are changing. I mean, this is just a few films out of a really, really long list because, I mean, Disney truly does own everything. But surprisingly, to some, not really to me, I guess. I'm making a video about it, so I guess it does surprise me a little bit. Star Wars hasn't changed. They haven't changed the release date for Star Wars in the year 2022, which makes sense because not only by that time, in December of 2022, we should pretty much be past this whole coronavirus, COVID-19 thing that's going on. But still, understanding how production works, we know you want to get the stuff started ahead of time. Clock is kind of ticking on this film, on what it's going to be about, who's going to direct it, who's going to write it. And that's why I think it's a little interesting that they haven't delayed it. I'm pretty confident by this point. If they delayed it, I would assume the reason would be is because they don't truly know what they want to do with the film, what it's going to be about, who's going to write, who's going to direct, and they're going to get the casting going and all that stuff. I'm thinking since they're not delaying it, they may have a lot of that stuff already kind of tapped. They may be ready to go in a certain way, not like production-wise, but they may be pretty much ready to go on that film, the 2022 Star Wars film. They may have a plot that they like, they may have a script in the work that they really like, they may have the director ready to go, and that might be the reason why they're not delaying it, because I feel like it would be wise to take the time we have now where everyone's in lockdown to really get all the nitty-gritty details on that going. But if they already have all of that ready, if they already have their writers, the directors, and the actors, and what they're going to do with the story and with that film, then maybe they're just waiting on everything to clear out, the world to kind of go back to some sense of normalcy, and say, alright, now we can begin production on this thing and get this 2022 Star Wars film going. We had a lot of reports on who could be directing it, and for a while one of them was Taika Waititi. I believe in January, the Hollywood Reporter said that he's being looked at by Lucasfilm to direct a Star Wars film. And a lot of us assumed it would be this one, the 2022 Star Wars film. But since Thor, Love and Thunder is now coming out in the year 2022 as well, it's coming out in February of 2022, I don't really see that being a possibility. The productions definitely would overlap, and that would not be good for Taika. He can't be in two places at once. So I don't see that being a possibility because we know Marvel films often have reshoots, and sometimes so does even Star Wars films. I mean, a lot of films that these high caliber situations need reshoots. So I just don't see his schedule being open for a Marvel and a Star Wars film that are coming out in the same year. But then we had the news that J.D. Dillard, he is one of the directors for Slight, I believe, or the director for Slight, he has been tapped for a Star Wars project, but it's unclear if this is going to be a theatrical Star Wars release, like the one in 2022, or if it's a Disney Plus Star Wars film. But we do know that apparently he's been tapped to direct one of the new films that are coming out. So it's a lot of up in the air of who's who and who's doing what. Taika Waititi's probably not going to do the 2022 Star Wars film. If we're being honest, that's probably gone down to J.D. Dillard. He might be the guy to direct the 2022 Star Wars film that we have no idea what it's about, who it's going to be about. We're pretty confident right now that it's not going to be set in the High Republic era either, simply because Lucasfilm has said recently that there's no projects in the works right now set during the High Republic era. So I truly am curious on what the plan is over there at Lucasfilm and how they use this 2022 Star Wars film to kind of rebound the franchise, because this is new territory. This is a Star Wars film that isn't in the Skywalker saga. It may be a spin-off film, it may be a Star Wars story style kind of film. We don't know. Possibilities are now endless, so it really does tell how they're going to set up the future of Star Wars and where Star Wars will go now that the 9 films that we were we all knew we were going to have those 9 films eventually. Now that that part of the story is over, what's next? And I'm curious to see what they do with this 2022 Star Wars film. Who's going to direct it? Who's going to write it? Is it going to be that J.D. Dillard guy who was helmed to do a new Star Wars project? Don't know if it's going to be a theatrical release or Disney Plus release. I don't see it being Taika Waititi anymore since he has a film coming out in February of 2020. It'd be weird to have him do a film in February 2020 and December 2020, and they're both massive films like Marvel and Star Wars. I just don't think he's going to have the time to do that. So I'm curious to see what they do, what the decision is, and how it goes, because clock's a ticking. I think they need to kind of get all the nitty-gritty details on the Star Wars film set in stone, so they have the writer, the director, producers, and the story, and the actresses, and avoid any creative differences behind the scenes like we've had in the past. I think this is the film to avoid those on, but we'll see what they do. Tell me your thoughts below. Disney is not delaying the next Star Wars film in 2022, still keeping that December release date. Tell me your thoughts about that below. Are you excited to see what they do? Who do you think the story is going to be about? What do you think the story is going to be about? And who do you think is writing and directing this film? I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you all next time. May the Force be with you. Always.